Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Stephanie Zito. I have been really excited for this interview because Stephanie is a psychic, an intuitive soul coach, an author, and also a podcast host. She hosts the podcast, This Passionate Life, and she is the author of Wealth Codes, Sacred Strategies for Abundance. And we're going to talk a lot about manifesting because we're both big fans of that.
Oh, yes. I can't wait.
So welcome to the show, Stephanie. It's great to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Jill. Appreciate it.
So we were talking a little bit before we got started about manifesting, but let me ask you a couple questions. One, what's your story? How did you realize that you were psychic, and how did you get into all of this?
Yeah. Well, I think, thank you for asking. I think I've always been intuitive, psychic, and I would used to read my mom's mind, and she would get upset really and tell me not to tell her what she was thinking. And I think, for a lot of us who are energy sensitive or sensitive to emotions, it's not hard to pick up on what's really the undercurrent. So I think that's always been there. And then, really diving into it, I had my own block. I really wanted to start coaching, but I would always be doing something that was sort of like it, but not really hanging my own shingle, but kind of like it and sort of doing it. And then we had, when was this? My daughter was born, my son wasn't born yet, and my husband got laid off. And he wasn't asking me to work or anything. I was working part-time, but still really at home with my daughter and our daughter. And I knew that this was the opportunity to really start into the coaching world, or I might just be getting some job 9 to 5 that I really didn't want, that didn't suit me. And so synchronistically manifesting, I had the coach I wound up hiring enter my world. I chose to go to this event. I wasn't really doing things like this. I almost didn't go. My husband was like, no, you should go. Right? I was feeling guilty. I didn't want to go. I went. That's where I met the coach I wound up hiring. And he helped show me the path to learn to market myself and even what to charge and how to kind of craft my main talk and things like that. And there were so many moments along the way where I doubted myself. I had to work through being visible, like all these pieces of personal growth that happened along that journey. And along the way, synchronistically, I was coaching, and I knew there was a way to get quicker to the heart of really what was blocking someone, really what would serve them, really what would help move the dial forward. And of course, I connected with, or I found it, an intuitive energy scan training. And so I took that training, and it was based on reading the chakras, right? The energy centers of the body. And without going into great detail, I had already gone through my yoga teacher training. And in that teacher training, I had a Kundalini rising experience. If you're familiar with that at all, I see you nodding. Okay. So for anyone who may be listening who's like, well, I don't know what she's talking about, there's this idea that we have energy, latent energy at the base of the spine. We have these channels that run kind of like the spinal column, like the cerebral spinal fluid. And when we sort of like unlock that, we can have this energy rise. And it felt like I mean, if every part of your body could have its own orgasm, it's kind of how it felt. Have you had one too? Have you had
Yeah,
one?
I have.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'd heard people talk about it before, but unless you've experienced it, it it's just something that like you've never experienced before.
Exactly. So in that, I knew I was like, okay, well, this is something. Not sure what I'm going to do with this. But then when I did the training, it all, of course, it made sense. How would it not? So I put my ego aside and I started doing these energy scans, right? And all this stuff would come up, like the way something, the clearer senses, the senses that are the intuitive senses, the way we see something, we hear something, we sense something. And the people I was reading would say, like, oh, a psychic has told me this already. I completely identify with this. This makes complete sense. I really had to let my ego go to the side because you think, well, what if I say it's wrong? What if I'm not correct? I mean, at least for me, that came up. And I just said it anyway. And it was just so fascinating to me how quickly we were just getting to the heart of the blocks or what was really going on. So now, I think through being in that activity and then starting a group that I run to help deepen intuition, everything just helped me crack open my intuition, one thing after the other. And I remember, and in doing this and in becoming really open to what I do and who I am, I was able to connect in where I live locally with some amazing friendships that came out of the woodwork because I was being seen. I was showing myself as an intuitive, and I had women like, "Hey, I'm into this too." And so through these friendships, I had a friend ask me, "Well, do you want to? Are you going to dive into psychic mediumship?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to do mediumship." I had these sort of boxes. I think I was putting myself in a little bit, and I was like, "Well, I'm really here for the highest purpose. I'm really whatever I'm doing. It's I don't mean this in a demeaning way or anything. I just I had this sense sometimes if someone was coming to me to talk with a past loved one, of course it's going to give comfort. Of course they're going to get information. But I think I just had this sort of idea that it really had to be for like the highest purpose, right?
Right.
So in any case, when you are playing in the world of the psychic space, the quantum field, guess what? It's all in there. It's all there. And so, of course, what starts to come through? Someone's past loved one, and I get the name of someone, or I get a very specific experience that would just be for that person. In doing these readings, doing them online, I don't see people, I just see their avatars going through. I don't know who they are. And so I'm like, guess what? I guess I am also playing in the space of mediumship because we can connect with all of it. There's no boundaries. And so that brings me to here where I and my coaching really feels like the most I have ever been fully aligned with my purpose. I know what I'm doing now. I know there's going to be more in the future, but I feel relaxed. There was a time when I was like, I'm just not there. I'm not, what am I supposed to be doing? It's not quite the right thing. Or I would, like I said, put it into some other place. And I know I'm guided. I know where spirit is guiding me for the next phase, and I'm just open and relaxed towards it because I know I'm here, and I know there's more to come. And I really enjoy serving mostly women, some men too, who tend to be kind of like between 35, 40 to 60 who are looking for a shift. Maybe they want to shift into their own gifts. They want to shift into a different job. There's something that's out of alignment relationship wise, and they want to get it into alignment. It's not comfortable anymore. The comfortable is not comfortable anymore. And pretty quickly, we get right to the heart of what needs to shift, what may be blocking. And now I also include the tools of hypnotherapy in a psychic space to help with some of these shifts. And I have clients will call me even literally like a day or two after we've met, and they were maybe having a house for sale sitting in escrow for 9 months. They get an all cash offer. I've had several real estate people come to me where things like that have happened. They have spontaneous money come through. They have the job offer come through, right? They get to receive, this is where like I think the psychic and the manifesting sort of merge, right? They find themselves receiving because they have shifted their frequency. And so now they're on the frequency where they can receive that which they say they desire. They're no longer blocking it, they're no longer afraid of it, the success, the failure, whatever it is. And they're open to it. So it can arrive.
I like that last part about being open to it. It's so important. We as humans, I think, want to, maybe not all of us, but I know I have the propensity to want to know how something is going to happen and have it in my mind, this is how it's going to happen. And yeah, I'm going to say I'm manifesting this, but really, I know how I'm going to make it happen. And the universe will laugh at you when you do that. I
Yeah,
laughs at me all the time, but
I was just gonna pull out this piece of paper this, as you were saying that. Um, you know, we want to know how, and we sometimes people we won't even take the next step until we know how. But the
Mhm.
whole thing is we have to take the next step so we can get the next step, right? And if we're blocked because we're so afraid of what, let's say we want to have $1 million year in our business, and yet if there's a block, and I've worked with several people who have this block of success, and what I've seen, it can be around, well, if I'm making that amount of money, I'm going to lose my close friendships. I'm going to lose these close relationships because now I'll be at this next level, and those people will feel so different, or they'll feel bad about themselves, or it's going to create this energy shift, right? And so it's blocking them from making this next level of success, going from their $50,000 a month to $100,000 a month. And so when we identify what that is, then we can help them walk forward, not only feeling safe but expansive, and also recognizing the nature of relationship, that those people who really, let's see the truth, those people who really love you will be with you and celebrate you. And those who can't hold that frequency, right, if they do move aside, they are opening the space for others who can hold you for who you be, right, who you are showing
Mhm.
yourself to be at your core. So yeah, it's interesting how self-limiting we can be.
And I think just in terms of how we hold the energy ourselves, we can say, I want to have $1 million year, which would make me a millionaire. And a millionaire is supposed to be in this kind of a container, much like, you were talking about wandering into the quantum field, but only wanting to hold like certain spaces.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. It's just the energy that is. And
Mhm.
having $1 million year there's some technical things that you have to overcome to have a
Mhm.
$1 million year in a business. But beyond that, it's just energy. It's no different than having a $1 year. You're still the same
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Ultimately, you may have expanded in some ways, but not even necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of people that are millionaires that aren't all that expanded. They screw up their lives in different ways because they haven't chosen to look at the other side of their life and really get to
Yeah.
know themselves.
Well, that's a really interesting conversation, right? Because, if we can envision everything as frequency, everything, we are a lot of different frequencies, everything has a frequency. Money, oh my God. Okay. Money is frequency. Think of the word currency, right? Currency, what does that
Mhm.
come from? Current, right? We can think of flow. We can think of what is the nature of money. The nature of money is a currency. It's an energy. It's it's a flow of energy, right? So you think of, wanting to hold tight to something, or sometimes people will get all that money and then they'll just blow it right away, right? There's an energy to how not only the actual frequency of money, but then the frequency that we are bringing to that money. So there are people who, kind of to your point, who maybe they're not talking about psychic stuff. They're just doing life, going home, watching a show. It's like no big deal. And they are beyond millionaires. It has nothing to do with how spiritual they are, how evolved someone is. It literally has to do with they're just on that train, they're on that frequency with money, that vibrational frequency with those $1 million. It just, whatever it might even mean to them, it's the meaning we put on it, it's all the other stories we're bringing to it that are really influencing our experience with it. It is our experience with it.
Exactly. I've known many millionaires. I continue to know millionaires in my life. They're just people. They just, and they may not even have had like spectacular, huge windfalls. I think a lot of times we get in this mindset where we have to have this huge clump of money hit us instead of
Mm-hmm.
the incremental way that an accumulation of wealth happens. It
Mm-hmm.
it trickles in. It's like
Mm-hmm.
collecting a pot of water.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to get through the flow first. Sometimes it's just a drop or two. And
The
then sometimes the
currency.
faucet gets
Yeah.
turned on. Yeah, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more, and it flows more steadily. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, you're pulling water out to use,
Mm-hmm.
but it depends. And if your pot's cracked, God forbid, then it's leaking some of that
Exactly.
water.
Right.
So
Yeah. And there's also this sense of the idea of wishful thinking, like, oh, it'd be so great one day, and I'm visioning, I see the Ferrari, I see the house, I see it all, and yet is the dial moving forward? And if it's not, it's clearly because there's also the strategy of it, right? The strategy for any given person with any given scenario that they're in, whether it's in like car sales or manufacturing a thing or coaching or whatever. And
yeah,
so there's a bit of this sense of, one might say like the masculine and the feminine. So there is that sense of, oh, I'm receiving in the feminine, in the receiving, where things come to us, opportunities show up, and we're ready, we're available because we're in that frequency, we're in that current. And then there's also going to be the strategy. So there can be a pathway you can lay out, whether it's like real estate investment or your other investments, to get yourself to that point. So there is some work involved along with the visioning. I think if we're just staying in the visioning piece, we're probably missing out.
I agree. And more to my point is that everyday life happens. The currency is always flowing all around us. It, it doesn't have to be this huge, you don't have to win the lottery, okay?
Right, right.
But a lot of people either have that mentality where I've got to win the lottery, or I've got to, if I become a millionaire, then there's going to be Ferraris and big houses and all of this other stuff that actually can be terrifying to some people.
Mm-hmm.
That responsibility of, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this money?
Mm-hmm.
And how is it going to affect my life? And you were talking about, maybe my friends won't like me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be like that.
Right,
And sometimes we need to like recognize that it it can just be.
right. It doesn't have to be super complicated.
Yeah, we like to
Right,
overcomplicate things, and it doesn't have to be. Even starting a business doesn't have to be super complicated. And yeah, there's certain steps that you will learn, just get started.
right. Yeah,
Stuff will
exactly.
come to
Like
you.
the roadmap, the strategy piece, and I mean, I look at when I first started coaching and I had that sort of roadmap for marketing, and there were
Mhm,
pieces that I wanted to resist because of the meaning that I brought to them, or
mhm,
the frequency that I was shifting out of, right? And I think that can show up pretty frequently for people, and there's this sort of common themes around, maybe feeling shame or feeling guilt or feeling like a sense of worth, right?
mhm.
And at the end of the day, I feel like it all kind of boils down to me, the real story of why we're here, which is love, which is self-love, which if we have that, if we are an expression of the universe, and the universe is expansive, if we can imagine the universe is universal love, and we are an aspect of that, self-love is love. It is it is the universe loving us. It is us in the collective being love. So, sometimes I think there's some of these things, maybe we grow up with it, or it comes through the ancestry, that we're really just here to heal. And it shows up when we kind of bump up against something, right? Like resistance to a certain strategy that can help us make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's probably something personal, it's something to shift. That's where I was mentioning the hypnosis. It can be really helpful to help sort of pick out these pieces that are just kind of blocking the energy, or shifting the frequency.
Do you work with people one-on-one or in groups? How does actually working with you look?
So I have been pretty much just one-on-one, and then very grateful. I got very busy, and so I started a group program. So now I think what I've seen is this sort of strategy that really works for people, for clients. And so now I've created sort of a curriculum and a group process. So we have like a 90-day journey together. It's a big vision accelerator, and we work through these three areas of manifesting: the clarity. That's a big one. Just literally being clear is a big one. And there's some strategies of how we do that in tandem with manifesting. And then typically, once we have the clarity, what can show up for people is the what ifs and the buts, and they're going to knock up against the limiting beliefs. And that's where we move into the clearing part. So clearing can look like hypnosis. And within the group program, I still do offer one-on-one, because group experience can be very helpful. But to me, there's nothing like just getting very specific, really nuanced for you as an individual. So we can do, the clearing through the hypnosis, and bless you, and also through the akashic records. So and it's interesting when I say akashic records, which is sort of like our soul's entire records for our entire existence. It's like all the information we might need, all the wisdom, all the downloads. I do akashic records journeys or way showing for clients, and I have found like the most profound healing information, wisdom, come through by guiding someone to experience their akashic records, and to be there as a way shower. Like, I'm there, I can see all of it, to help show them something maybe they're having a hard time knowing where to go next, or what to see next, or what's being shown to them. So those are some incredible ways to clear. And then we really are moving into the phase of the co-creation with the universe. What am I open to receiving, and what am I how am I reverse engineering my goals? So I know, I can see where I'm at. I can see, I want to write the book. Well, what am I doing? How is that getting done? I want to build the business. Okay, well, how is that getting done? So then we have the support in there in that way. So yeah, the group program has all the elements that I've ever done with one-on-one, and the experience of support within a small group collective.
That's so nice. Collectives they're just like the gold lining on any coaching program, because you make connections with people that you might not have come across, and you're all on the same part of the path together, and you can chat, and some of those people will stay your friends for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I've had some of these women, because mostly women, they've been in groups with me for probably like 3 years now, and they keep coming back because they enjoy the coaching, and they enjoy the collective, and like really close bonds, very close friendships are coming through, and it means a lot to me. I think, I find, especially with women, I don't know about you, but I hear women really wanting that, really looking for that. And also manifesting that through working with me. I've had clients who that's been a big thing for them, and now it's happening for them. They're kind of more in-person friendships, like deep friendships that really just know each other.
Yeah. And when you're all kind of, we all tune to the same frequency when we're in community with each other. And the ability for collaboration and networking
Mhm.
in that kind of a situation can only produce like amazing results. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what's really exciting about yeah, about doing it in the group program. Um and in the one-on-one, it's been really interesting because like I think I mentioned, we work like if you're ready, you're ready. We work pretty quickly. I think um I'm for all the modalities, all the therapies. I'm not trying to say something about one thing or another. uh, that way. However, what I have noticed is working through this sort of psychic realm, through hypnosis, through the akashic records, the results that we get are just, they're so quick, right? Like the manifesting is just like, oh, well, this is happening now. And then I got this job offer and this is coming into my world.
it's
um,
being able to recognize it too, to see it coming and to, because there's stuff always coming at us that we've wanted, because we're always manifesting. We manifest the good and the bad.
mhm,
But being conscious of the idea of I'm consciously manifesting X,
mhm.
and then watching as it materializes in front of you. I just like,
It's pretty fun.
it's really
So
fun.
I have a story about that. I have this piece of paper from now it's about a year and almost a year and a half ago. Almost a
Mhm.
year and a half ago, December of whatever. And I wrote on this piece of paper the house that we were kind of wanting to manifest. We were living in our home we purchased in 2017. It was just 1,300 square feet. We live in Southern California, so very blessed to have that home. And with two kids that are getting older, felt like we were outgrowing it. My husband was working from home. I was working from home. For me, I was like constantly like moving my stuff around. My kids would try to have a sleepover and then be like, they're in my space. I mean, it was just, we were really feeling it. And we looked at
Mhm.
expanding the house or this or that. I wrote this bigger house, room with a view, staying in the same school district, having an office yoga room. And then 2 weeks, and then kind of forgot about it, right? 2 weeks later, we weren't even talking about houses. We weren't really like looking at the housing websites, or I was just like, whatever. And my husband comes to me and says, you know what, there's this house I want us to go look at. So we come look at the house and we're like, this could really fit our needs. And we put an offer on it. And long story short, we are sitting in that home. And where we live, this it's not completely unique, but I'll tell you the fact that I have an office, there's no closet in here. It's big enough for me to teach yoga online, right? I've got these double French doors behind me. I'm looking at a view. There's no one who lives behind me. It's not usual for Southern California to have
No,
the the way the house is situated. When you're downstairs, there's a room we can shut off. The kids can just make all the noise they want, have their sleepover stuff, and like we can actually operate together, but also have our own space. Um, and so we manifested it. And the thing about this story is that, and I'm going to say this because I know sometimes we can get in our own way, and we did. Once we started to go down that path, and it was so quick, we were like, wait a second, should we be doing this? We have a great interest rate. We had a 3% interest rate. Now it's like six. This is a bigger house. It's going to be more, right? So we go into all the what ifs and the whys and the whatnots and overthinking. And I kept coming back to my one area of inner knowing, my intuition. And I kept checking in and I kept feeling the clarity, even with the bumps in the roads and the hiccups and us backing away. I kept feeling it. And so it was a bit of a journey, but we did it. And this is the thing. We couldn't know until we got here. There was the idea being here would be expansive, right? It'd be expansive for my business, it'd be expansive with the kids, but we couldn't know it till we got here. But by saying yes and taking that leap, that's exactly what's happened. My business has expanded, the kids' friendships has expanded, right? Like everything that we were wanting that the house meant for us,
Mhm.
it's being delivered. So it's just sort of a example of leaning into that trust when you want to manifest something, you're given the thing you wanted, And sometimes we can sabotage it or we can say no to it. But one, like having it not only be on your radar, right? But then saying yes to it and then surrendering to where it's leading you.
To the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I was telling you about when I manifested my $54,000
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
Um, I've told the listeners this story before, but it's that it happened. I had set out in my head that I was going to make it happen in a certain way. And I could see all the steps. But as my father-in-law passed relatively quickly. It was like within a period of a week, but it was also the period of the week that I was launching something.
Mm,
And that's how I thought the money would come.
right.
Um in my head. Because I was like, I had it all planned out. And didn't it didn't go that way at all. And then as we ended up having to like look into doing hospice, and I had to remodel this whole room because it was really, it needed paint, it needed a
Mm,
floor, it needed lots of stuff.
mm,
And I had a day to do it. And then he was coming in, and that was like, I was supposed to be focused on something else, but you just have to put all that stuff aside and just like
mm,
step back and say,
mm,
I'm not in control, and I don't have to be in
mm,
control. I can
mm,
just let the process unfold however it's going to unfold. And it
mm,
unfolded that way. It was just like,
mm, mm.
we didn't see it coming.
Right. Yeah. And that's what's so interesting is when you surrender to how you can even receive it.
Mm.
It's really true. We
Yeah.
can, yours was like kind of a bigger one, but even in smaller things, like I'll have my group just kind of play with something, like just manifesting something smaller, like just something random. I think we played with it one time recently, and mine was a frog. I was going to see a frog, someone else a whale, and sure enough, we said that the next day. I don't usually go in my daughter's room to turn the lights off. I don't know. I just get her ready for school, get doing other stuff. I haven't done that in forever. But I just felt compelled to go in her room and turn her lights off. And sure enough, right at the base of her lamp was this little green frog that I'd bought for her like years ago. So there was my frog, right? And
Mhm.
someone else, she received, her friend had gone to Mexico and came back and gave her a gift, and it was this beautifully painted whale's tail. So she got the whale. Someone else wanted to get a penguin, and this is where, well, is it? Do I need a shinier sign? Did it show up the right way? Did it show up the
Uh-huh.
way I intended it to? It's kind of teaching us. These smaller moments teach us for the bigger moment.
Yep.
She got it in. I think she was on Pinterest, and it was some graphic that said like penguin Random House. It was that. It was penguin. So it was penguin. She got her penguin, but it wasn't the way she expected to get it.
Yeah.
And I think those exercises can remind us of exactly like what showed up for you, being open to the possibilities. Like talk about the quantum field. It is literally the field of pure possibility. So we can receive this. It
Everything.
doesn't that too, where I'm like, well, I have to make this money. I say I have to make it. And then we'll have like this check come in. I'm like, well, it wasn't how it doesn't count. It doesn't count because it
Yeah,
wasn't how I said. Of course it counts.
exactly.
Of course it counts.
Everything counts. You find a penny on the street. If you want to make $10,000 this month, that's a penny less that you have to make because,
Exactly.
you know, it all counts. It's
Right.
just
Exactly.
drops turn into a trickle, turns into like a steady flow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, another thing I was thinking about recently, it's interesting because my kids still have change. They've got like heavy piggy banks full of change. My son has a box full of change. It's heavy. And when I think again, think of language, think of words, think of that word change. Like, well, what is that? What is that? Like that not only is it our currency, right, our energy, but it's meant for change. It's meant to be transmuted. Money doesn't just, it becomes this this Starbucks water cup. It becomes this iPhone. It becomes this pen. It becomes that car. It becomes right. It becomes other things. It's meant to be changed. if you think of it that way, if you think of the relationship we can have with it, it can be really fun, allowing it to change, allowing it to transmute.
And it's not just like the pen, it becomes the pen, but the pen also represents the work of other people and the lives of other people who created the pen. I mean, somebody thought of it, somebody manufactured it, somebody built the building where it was manufactured, somebody, I mean, it's just like,
It's
nothing is
infinite.
just like, yeah, it is
And
totally infinite.
it's the words you write, and it's the book that you write, and it's the card deck that you create, and it's right. And then
It's
it's
the
the people
feeling that
who,
you elicit from somebody who received the thank you note that you sent them.
yes, and then how they feel, and then that energetic imprint that they deliver to others around them, and it keeps flowing.
Yeah, it's not just money. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing is
Mm-hmm.
just the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a little snapshot of a bigger, more intricate design that's like it's so
Well,
yummy.
there's this, back when I probably was dating my husband, I remember I lived in Orange County, and I was teaching more yoga than I am now, and driving somewhere to teach yoga. And I had this song I had found, and I, like, I would like to find this song again. So maybe someone knows what I'm talking about. It's like back in the day when we had Blockbusters, and I
Hmm.
would walk into that Blockbuster, and I'd have like a general idea of some movie that I wanted to get. I'd say, oh, there's this guy and he's got a box of chocolates and he's got these white shoes, and they'd know it's Forrest Gump. Like they would just know. And that's kind of that's what I need. I need someone who knows what this song is, just to bring it through. But what I love about this song is that it's basically from Osho, right? This Zen master. And he talks about how there's this concept that, we really are these aspects of the universe. We are the aspects of the universe knowing itself. What is a universe? It is literally kind of a creator. It is change. It is gases becoming planets. If we are part of that, right? Not only are we part of creation, we are the creator. We are an aspect of the universe as creator, as us being creator. And so if we think of like how we utilize money as creation, as change, right? It is flowing through us for that change, for that transmutation, for that creation, for that expression of the universe. It's all kind of like what you were saying. It's all part of it. It's part of all things.
Yeah. I I sometimes will to run these little experiment things through my head. And one of the things that I was thinking about, well, one of the things that I practice is laying in bed at night, trying to imagine where my body ends and the atmosphere begins. Because we are not
Mm,
solid, we are a chemical process, and electrons transfer between shells. I mean, it's not like a molecule is always the same molecule. It's interchanging. They break off, the
mhm.
electrons break off and they reconnect, and that's a constant process. So I lay there and try to feel that. But I also was thinking about our bodies. Our bodies are a bunch of living organisms because a cell is a living organism in and of itself. I don't know if it has a consciousness or not, or if it's just if it contributes to consciousness.
Mhm.
This kind of thoughts I have sometimes. But as individual beings with all of these cells, we are like our own little universe
Yeah.
is walking around
Mhm.
in time and then in community with all of these other universes. I sometimes wonder and imagine that we are just the cells inside of a larger a larger organism
Mhm. Absolutely. I
standing
could I
out.
could literally be a liver cell in a larger organism. And I think I'm
Yeah.
doing all this stuff and I'm doing all my things. And I'm not just, but I am absolutely. I mean, I think, this is the idea of, also you were talking a little bit about the psychic realm and how we think we're sometimes I think we think we're so separate from that. And yet we literally live in it. Like we literally are in the quantum field. And so by virtue of being in the quantum field, we are part of the psychic field. Like we're part of, we might think of a given timeline. Perhaps there are other timelines happening simultaneously. Uh, uh, when you talk about staying awake at night and thinking about like where you end and the universe begins, that is a practice. I don't know if you're probably familiar with Joe Dispenza.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is for sure. I was just recording this for my manifesting group. We just did this together, tuning into new potentials meditation. And one of the things that he really talks about, and again, these concepts, they exist in the quantum field. I'm not saying that one person invented this or this belongs to one person or he coined it. I'm just mentioning
Yeah.
someone who's talking about it. Yeah. But the idea of bringing in convergent and then divergent focus is really helpful to get us into that space of manifesting. It's this idea of I can bring my focus to my finger, and I can envision my finger is on my body, and I'm floating in space, and then I can come back to the idea of the right inside my chest. Right, I can bring it in, then I can bring it back out. It's sort of just, to me, it's sort of like the breath of the universe in a sense, right? Of expansion and contraction, of drawing my idea out into the universe and then receiving it back in. So I caught that when you were mentioning that, just in terms of that being part of a manifestation practice.
Yeah. I actually, I've been doing it for a long time, but I saw a movie. It was a kind of a silly movie about superheroes and the crazy woman, the crazy character, she practiced that. It's like, oh,
Oh.
confirmation. I must be onto something.
Well, it's funny because like I used to have thoughts like this when I was young. I mean, you and I are meant to have this conversation because
Yeah.
I would lie awake at night like thinking about how my eyeballs are in my head, but I'm thinking, and what is this that I'm just thinking, and is it really me just in this body?
Used to look in the mirror and wonder what the world was like on the other side.
Yeah,
Because,
right, right. All you kind of know is your own knowing, your own consciousness. Um, which is so interesting because I really do feel like it's just so important to remember that we are part of this quantum field where um tapping in psychically to things that we can't see uh is just so valuable, like tapping in with our guides, our inner guidance, our highest self, whatever you want to call it. Tapping into things that may have occurred in past lives or past iterations of our soul. There's just a lot of wisdom and guidance available to us when we kind of tap into that space.
and allow ourselves to just wander through it without having to have a
Hmm.
thought about it, just to exist in it. Like I
Yeah.
I know that I've always had this fear of heights. And
Mm.
and it's a visceral fear. It's not like a head fear. Like
Hmm.
I go up high on a building, and it's only if I feel like I could fall off.
Hmm. Hmm.
It it it, it happens if I watch movies, like the Mission
Mm.
Impossible movies where
Right.
Tom Cruise is hanging off the building. I physically want to throw up.
Yeah.
So, um, and in doing a lot of this kind of journeying back into past lives experiences, I realized that I went off a cliff on a horse at one point
Hmm. Hmm.
in my past, and
Yeah.
that is why I'm afraid of un um encumbered heights, uh,
Yeah.
unprotected heights.
Hmm. Hmm. Did knowing that help you with the fear?
I think it does help me with the fear. I
Hmm.
understand why I have it now.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I can say, well, this is not likely to happen again. I'm probably not going
Right.
to go over the edge of this if I'm just
Hmm.
standing here. And that was part of a different process, and that was it was meant to happen, I guess.
Mhm.
Because it did.
Yeah, yeah, you can get those answers that rationally now okay, well, that was from this past life. I know where that came from. And that's what's so interesting about the hypnotic space, hypnosis, because our subconscious carries memory, not linearly. It's like as if that thing that happened in your past life is now, you know? And that's why the reaction would be so visceral, because you have that body memory of what
Mhm.
it was actually like going over that edge that did not end well for you. And so
Right.
the other piece is typically when the subconscious is working well and healthily, it's also going to want to preserve the body. So then it's going to do whatever it takes, like you feeling that in your body is going to do whatever it takes to keep you away from that edge to preserve the body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to once you start accepting some of these memories that you have as
Hmm.
real, um, and recognizing that they're not from this life, they're from a different life. I have other memories that I I recognize from other lives, and I
Yeah.
recognize how they intersect with this current life.
Mm. Hmm.
But they're just snapshot memories. They're not like
Hmm.
I can't remember the whole experience that I went through, but I
Hmm.
know kind of I can see the in my mind's eye the picture. Much like I have memories, a lot of different memories of a lot of different places and a lot of different things in this
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
But I can't tell you like in a long stream everything that's happened in my life. Because
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious if anyone really it'd be a lot. I mean, I
right.
feel like if we think of the whole scope of, I mean, I look at sometimes the energy that we're clearing goes the whole way back to um, the beginning of all things, the beginning of energies occurring, right? Some of the things that we carry are not even specific to us. They go like way, way back.
Hmm.
I had a past life regression that showed me something. I mean, it's so funny because I do this work, but I can be like the biggest skeptic. And
Right.
so, but my friends and I, now I also, do hypnosis, akashic, past life regression. It gets all part of it. But at this time, I was receiving from a shaman a past life regression with some friends, and I did not believe I was going to go in. I did not believe I was. I thought I was just going to be sitting there, right? I was like, that's okay. I'm just part of it. But sure enough, we went in. I went in, and I saw something that I completely didn't expect. It was seeing myself as like, and it's so vivid, I can still see it, you know? Yeah, I know, you know. And I was a young um indigenous child to the Americas. And I was actually being taken by like white people. They had like one of these wagons and they took me. And and the thing is when I didn't realize that right then and there, but then what it sort of paired with is that I've carried or had carried this fear of abandonment for my whole life, really. And
Mhm.
I have very loving parents. I mean, there is a bit of backstory within, my own birth and a bit of that, which could also relate to the abandonment fear. But it just felt so much bigger than right my current situation. And so what I realized in understanding that is that I wasn't abandoned, I was taken. My family back then, they never didn't want me. I was taken from them. And I feel like understanding that was so healing. It just shifted it just helped me relax. It helped me relax into understanding that, me not being loved wasn't a thing. Like I was very loved, right? Like these things that we can kind of carry. It was just incredibly healing to go through that experience. And I think, especially when you have something, a theme like that that keeps showing up in different ways, and you're not
Mhm.
sure how to shake it, maybe you don't know where it comes from. It's really worth looking at past lives to perhaps better understand it.
Yeah, for sure. The you wander into the woo, and there's just like so much to play with.
So much, all of it, everything, all the things.
Everything, all the things.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, I'm gonna have to ask you the question because we're coming up on an hour. And I
Oh, I
could
love
talk to
it.
you literally all afternoon.
Me
So
too.
how can people get in touch with you if they want to just have another conversation with you?
Sure. Well, yeah, you can book a complimentary intuitive manifesting session with me to take a look very succinctly at perhaps your greatest block right now and the pathway forward, and then explore if you're interested in taking that journey further, how that can look working with me. Um, you can find that on my website, or I'm sure we'll drop a link as well. And my website's just stephaniezito.com, and that pretty much has all the places where you can find me around the internet.
Around the net, in the
Yeah,
quantum field.
in the quantum, yes.
And what is the one thing that you hope the audience will take away from this conversation? I've covered so much.
I got
Good
it, I
luck.
got it, I got it.
Okay.
Trust, trust. When you get that nudge, you get that inner knowing, you get that nudge, you know it. You know it when you feel it. Just trust it. Just know that that happened. Know that that yes, that no, whatever that was, it showed up for you. It happened. And then your brain's probably going to tell you all sorts of stuff and this story and that, but allow yourself to go back to that and understand that if that came through for you, that most likely that is for you to trust. And when you take that next step, it's like following the breadcrumbs. The next step will become available to you on the path.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Jill.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.